to an off-grid life. My name is Debbie, and this is the fourth in a series of talks on the environment. And it's a condensed version of the class I took in college in 2009 called Environmental Sociology. And the two topics I'm talking about today are embodied energy and tragedy of the commons. And this is just another peeling of the onion to see where all of the carbon that creates climate change comes from. Because it seems like, well, it could be just, cars. But no, there's a lot more involved. And so I came upon my own embodied energy moment, and I don't think we even talked about this in the class. I went to get a pop at this dispenser. And then I started thinking about everything that went into that cup and all that for the pop. Because once you start thinking about, all the things that go into, all the things that were involved in climate change, you start connecting dots. Anyway, this example I'm going to use for embodied energy could be anything. It could be a house, it could be a car, it could be a gym shoe, a t-shirt. It's all the carbon that's involved. And this is not like a scientific thing where I'm going to come up with a number, but there are people that do that, and they can come up and go, yeah, that car, that's X amount of carbon in the atmosphere, when they manufacture it. No, this is just a hypothetical, and yeah, maybe I'll miss a couple, steps along the way, but let's just run with it. And I'm picking Raisin Bran. All of us know what it is. And it's just, I just thought of picking that. First of all, we're going to go into the field and dig it up to plant the wheat to make the flakes with a big machine that's run by diesel. And right there, stop right there, there's CO2 going into the atmosphere just by digging up the soil. So anyway, all right, we're going to plant it, we're going to harvest it, it's going to go over to a mill to be made into flour. And then it's going to go to another factory to be made into the flakes. And just as a reminder, or a review, buildings, when I point to these factories and I'm counting them, buildings contribute to something like 50% of the CO2 in the atmosphere, because they have electricity and heat or air conditioning. They're running 24/7. It's not just the factories, our houses, our big box stores, schools, businesses, warehouses, all those things. So now we're making flakes. And then sugar and other ingredients come in, and they came from other factories. And then the raisins, now they probably didn't have big machines that, harvested it, but I don't know that for sure. But they go to a factory that make the grapes into raisins. And then sugar. Sugar has to be grown in a big machine, and all that has to happen for raisins. And then the sleeve has to be made. And it's plastic. So oil has to be extracted from the ground. And then it goes to a factory to be made into the sleeve. And then the box has to be made. So some trees have to be cut down. And it goes to a paper mill factory, so that raw material gets made into something that can be made into the box. And that might be another factory after the paper mill, or it could be I don't know if they make the box in the paper mill. And then it all goes to, then it goes to get printed. And the box has to be printed. Oh, I almost had a little, where is it going? Anyway, we're in the factory where it all comes together. And then we go to the store. And we look at we go down our aisle and we see the Raisin Bran on the shelf, and we think, oh my gosh, I love that Raisin Bran. I have to have it. It's so delicious. But then we have to think, do we really need it? And the answer is no. No. Because if I go in my yard and I pick an apple off the tree, there's no carbon involved. There's no factories. It's just the apple. Okay, 8 or 9 factories plus all the factories that supported all that machinery in those factories, or no CO2. And okay, the more we realize what goes into things, then we can think, well, maybe I don't need that today because, you know, that's contributing to climate change. Which leads me to tragedy of the commons. In 1833, William Forster Lloyd talked about the tragedy of the commons, and he had this example. Here's a grazing area and a bunch of herders, and they had cattle or sheep, and each of them had like one or two. They didn't have, you know, like a whole, you know, 20 or 30 herd, you know, people, cattle in the herd or sheep. They just had a couple. And then one of the herders decided he wanted more. And then another one wanted some more. And then another and another and another. And then to the detriment of everybody, the area for they were grazing on got overgrazed, and there was no more food for the animals. Investopedia had the greatest definition. Tragedy of the commons is when the individual neglects the well-being of society in pursuit of personal gain. Well, I don't know about here in the United States because nobody's thinking of anything else but personal gain, because that's what's been indoctrinated into all of us. You know, we're number one and think of us and all those commercials. So we're not, who's thinking about the well-being? There are people that are thinking about the well-being, but somehow it's not getting down to us. And then there in 1968, Garrett Harding was an ecologist that he was doing research, and his article was looking at overpopulation and resource depletion, and he said that there isn't going to be a technical solution for this. There will be a moral solution. We have to think about we have to think about the commons. There are things that all of us need, and it's only fair that we make sure that we have all of these things and not just think of ourselves. And so how this gets to us, I don't really know. But I hear people talk about, well, and there are people that know what climate change is. And they'll go, well, I can't give up air conditioning. And I just look at them and they can't see that my eyes are rolling off around in my head. And yet and I'm thinking, well, what can you give up to save the planet? And I'm hoping that there's this moment like when the Grinch stole Christmas, and he's up on the top and he's teetering with the dog, and he looks down to Whoville and he sees the people singing and they don't have anything. And he finds his heart and he just goes, you know, I'm hoping that moment happens really soon. And then there's the people that think, oh, it's not going to happen for hundreds of years. And I'm going, oh no, where did they get that idea? And I'm going off on a rant right here, and I apologize, but just go with me right here. But anyway, they're like, it'll happen hundreds of years. So they don't care what they do to the planet. You know, it's not going to affect them. So, why be concerned? Well, what about their kids? And, oh yes, it's in 30 years we're going to run out of fish in the ocean. You know, we're industrializing the way we fish, and the way it's in 2050, National Geographic, we're going to be gone. We're done with them, the fish. And then we're at 408 parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere. 450 is considered unsafe, and we're going up. And if we're at the level that we're at, it'll take 14 years. Julia Layton, and she did an article on, and this was in December 11th, 2008, How Stuff Works. Has the Earth reached its carrying capacity? I thought, I'm going to look that up. And some of the different articles said, oh, it's like 10 billion. But she said, and it's not just a number. You know, it isn't like a certain number. You have to incorporate lifestyle. So she said, if everybody lives like Americans, we can only support 2 billion people on the planet. And we're at 7.6 billion. There's only 320 million of us. Did you look at the graph? And here's this country, and then here's where the United States is on the graph. We consume that much more in resources than everybody else on the planet. But so then back to what Julia said. She goes, well, and if we all just live with essentials enough, that we could support 40 billion people on the planet. So we need to look at, how we start reducing our consumption. And when we start thinking about embodied energy and how much goes into the products, and some of these products, they're gone in a nanosecond. Like a paper towel. You take the paper towel and it's in the garbage in a nanosecond, and how much carbon did it take to make that? Or plastic spoons and forks in the garbage, and the whole, landfill issue, and then the recycling. You may think that recycling is a wonderful solution. Let's not even make that stuff before we recycle it, because that's a whole nother issue. And it's not the perfect solution. It helps, but it's not. So a lot of these things are, and when I go in the grocery store, my head wants to explode, because all of those products on the shelf are take so much carbon, just like the Raisin Bran. We need to reduce our consumption, because we can't, the rest of the world, we're not just biting the hand that feeds us, we're destroying the hand that feeds us. So we need to learn about this. So I encourage everybody to go out there and to watch more documentaries and Google stuff and find information on all this stuff, because it's essential. Again, sit down with your friends and your family and talk about this, because so many things are happening. We don't have a lot of time, and we don't have a national program in the United States, and we don't have the time to wait for it. So we need to do something, now. So I'm going to leave you with find more information. Reduce your consumption. It's just a new habit. It's not painful to switch to, cloth towels instead of those paper towels. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you listen to more videos on this. There are solutions, and you have a great day. Thank you so much.